was nothing, just lights in the trees, a trick of the frost, a ghost on the breeze. But I saw a mirror older than me, staring through time like it wanted to speak. The forest went silent, the world held its breath. Something was watching beyond life and death. We stepped through the green, boots breaking the seal, not chasing a light, but something too real. I came back with salt on my skin, my mind split wide where the storm got in. They call it a test, but I know the deal. History blinks beneath the green veil.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 3 of the 22 animated series. I'm here with John Burroughs and our special guest co-host who will be joining us from time to time, Commander Copra, who is the co-host of UAP Crossfire that airs on Thursdays, 8 p.m. on KGRA-DB, along with Chris DePerno, Don Ecker, and Dan Carlson. And also, Commander will be having his own show sometime in the fall, 9 Line. So keep an eye out for that. Before we begin, gentlemen, because this is going to be a quick 30 minutes because the clip itself is like 18 minutes. But what did you guys think of Chapter 3?
Well, for me, I've been wrapped around this from the start when John shared what he was doing. And I've been on the road quite a bit to take a look at this. And what it made me do was pick up Rendlesham signals. Because I find that the two of them are telling me things, it's revealing things to me from this. And this particular third, I've been looking forward for the third chapter because the first two are frustrating to me because it's too much of what I still deal with today in the work that I do and what I went through with my career. And it also kind of breaks my heart because what John went through trying to get this. But what I really loved about the third one is we're starting to break through. And, of course, John, the use of the terminology of the veil just absolutely swept up in all kinds of biblical special codices that are out there in different societies. The use of that term and tying it in with signal. Let's just say that I'm telling you, signal received.
I will say this. I found it absolutely... it was information that I was not aware of really in detail. And even though it's fictionalized, it obviously is portraying John's personal experience in Rendlesham in some instances. And what John went through... And, a lot of people say, oh, well, he's got memory recall all of a sudden. Well, if you pay attention to what's going on here, things occurred at Rendlesham post, and that contributed to what John's experience is throughout his whole life since. This affected him on a personal level, even maybe on a molecular level, genetically, DNA, alteration. And you're just going to have to watch this episode. It's really intense. But before we start, I also want to give credit to the content creator, Keith Cearlock, who is responsible for putting the animation, the music, the narration, and I'm going to put a couple of his sites up on the screen. Beck's Creek Soundscape Studio, there's the website. Also, Rose City Sound Project. That's the YouTube page. You can listen to the beautiful music that is associated with this series that you're going to be watching over the next few weeks and months, actually. All right. So, guys, any quick comments before we start Chapter 3?
I'm good.
I think a lot of stuff connects up. I'm sorry, John.
I said we'll talk after.
All right. So, gentlemen, go ahead, Commander.
I'm just going to say, Bill, I think you absolutely hit it because it's not a one-way transmission.
All right. So, without any further ado, let's get to Chapter 3 right now.
Previously, in Chapter 2, The Green Veil, we witnessed Jack Barrett begin his testimony before Congress, recounting the first night of the Rendlesham incident. He described the strange lights, the sudden radio silence, and the overwhelming time distortion he and his team encountered deep in the forest. Unbeknownst to them, an advanced experiment was unfolding, a convergence of secret technologies and an ancient anomaly buried beneath the earth. The truth: they weren't just chasing lights, they were chosen. Now, in Chapter 3, Echoes, we go behind the scenes, into the minds of those who orchestrated what Jack would walk into the early stages of Echo Protocol, the deliberate entanglement of time, consciousness, and plasma-based intelligence. You'll meet the scientists who knew more than they were allowed to say, and you'll learn just how far they were willing to go to provoke the unknown. And as Jack comes face to face with a mirrored version of himself, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't a coincidence. This was the beginning of a message.
Beneath the black horizon, where time forgets to turn, a spark was drawn from silence, and frost began to burn. Footsteps in the static, shadows split the dawn. They walked into the breach and something else walked on. We didn't stumble through the dark, we followed voices from the spark. A signal called, we stepped inside, not just a gate but a fault line wide. Himself from outside time, reflections been outpaced the climb. We didn't stumble through the dark, we were invited from the start. Echoes stretched across the line between the signal and the sign. The veil pulled back, the silence fled. We touched the past and summoned the future instead.
December 25th, 1980, East Anglia, England. Dr. Elias Voss lit a cigarette on a cliff edge near Orford Ness, the North Sea wind slicing through his coat. His eyes scanned the dark horizon, not for weather, not for waves, but for resonance. He wasn't just here as a physicist. He was a guardian of the unexplainable. Behind him, Christopher Pike, an astrophysicist working on an officially funded plasma physics project during the time of the Rendlesham incident, arrived late, stumbling through documents and bags. He'd been summoned 2 days before Christmas with no brief, only a name, Echo Protocol. Pike had previously focused on ball lightning, natural plasma glows, earth lights, and similar phenomena. Plasmas are electrified gas in which the atoms have been split into positively charged nuclei and negatively charged electrons. If you pump energy into a gas, it creates a plasma. He somehow became embroiled in scientific investigations in Suffolk in late December 1980, unaware at the time that a UAP incident was developing. What he thought was a physics investigation was dangerously overlapping into the murky world of ufology. The Berwyn incident connection. Pike had studied UAP plasma cases before, including the mysterious Berwyn Mountains incident in Wales. A night of fireballs, ground tremors, and a metallic object retrieved under military secrecy. But this was more structured, more intentional. Martlesham Heath, SCIF briefing. Pike was taken into a SCIF beneath RAF Martlesham Heath, where Voss, NSA observers, and MOD DI-55 analysts convened. They weren't chasing UAPs. They were preparing to stage one. The operation: use a directed atmospheric burst to bring down a Soviet Zenit 6U satellite, then observe how the anomaly interacted with the surrounding fields. Operation Echo Protocol. On the early morning of December the 26th, 1980, 0200, a coordinated effort was launched. A classified radar array, retrofitted with pulse compression technology and integrated with a modular phased array emitter system, focused on the predicted re-entry window of the Soviet Zenit 6U reconnaissance satellite. At precisely 2 a.m., the system released a concentrated beam of terahertz radiation interlaced with ELF, extremely low frequency, harmonic waves. This energy, focused like a lens through the misty upper layers of the troposphere, destabilized the satellite's orbital integrity. Unbeknownst to most involved, a secondary component had also been activated, a human one. Voss and Pike had been working with a classified Department of Defense contractor to test the effects of directed cognitive influence, psionics, on signal-reactive plasma environments. A test subject, remotely monitored and emotionally amplified through a psychoacoustic induction system, was present at the moment of satellite destabilization. The combined waveform, both technological and conscious, triggered a resonance collapse, resulting in the satellite systems catastrophically failing. It was not just shot down, it was pulled down. 3 goals: bring down the satellite quietly, stage a cover phenomenon in Rendlesham, study the anomaly's temporal reaction. We're not testing technology, Voss said. We're testing reality. Back at RAF Woodbridge, Jack Barrett, 21, was restless. His instincts screamed. He felt the shift before it happened. The air warped, the forest lit with light that wasn't from stars. He stepped toward it. He didn't know he was stepping into the center of an experiment. He only knew he had to go. Classified testimony. Present day. Back in the present, inside a closed-door hearing, Jack stared into a panel of stunned officials. The object wasn't Russian. It wasn't alien. It was aware. He paused. And I wasn't the first. But I may have been the first to survive it. The mind fracture. When Jack woke in the infirmary at RAF Bentwaters, his bones felt like they were vibrating. The lights were too bright, but the shadows beneath them too slow. Dr. Elias Voss stood at his bedside. No clipboard, no small talk. "I'm not your physician," he said, "but I am your analyst." Jack stared at him. "Why do I feel like I'm still in it?" Voss looked over his shoulder as if someone might be listening. "Because you are." He paused. "You're carrying the harmonic residue." Voss handed Jack a small Polaroid, one of the classified photos recovered near Capel Green. At first glance, it was just a blur of mist and light. But behind the anomaly, faintly visible through the trees, was Jack. And behind Jack, another figure, identical stance, identical uniform, face obscured. Jack whispered, "That's not possible." Voss sat down. "We think your consciousness bifurcated." Dr. Elias Voss, internal memo. Restricted circulation, subject, neural displacement and signal trace. Barrett anomaly. Barrett exhibits symptoms of entangled awareness. He is reporting memories that have not yet occurred. Time exposure appears to have fractured his cognitive mirror. His body remains here. His mind may not. Echo Protocol Debrief, entry number 7, audio redacted, RAF Martlesham Heath, temporary Black Trace facility. Voss and Pike sat in a dim analysis chamber, reviewing telemetry from the forest. "Rewind 12 seconds, Voss said. Pike tapped the console. The infrared recording slowed, revealing the moment Jack entered the light. "There," Voss whispered. "Do you see it?" A brief pulse, too brief to register as visual, flickered across the screen. Then a shadow peeled away from Jack's form. It moved in reverse, like a film unspooling backwards. A mirror walking away from its subject. The Russian intercept. On December 26, 1980, a GRU signals unit outside Kaliningrad intercepted a narrow band frequency pulsed from East Anglia. The message was encrypted using a Cold War-era protocol not in service since 1974. The content was a single phrase, repeated 3 times. "Echo protocol is active." The intercept reached Soviet High Command within 4 hours. Their response: escalate orbital surveillance. Within 72 hours, a reconnaissance satellite passed over Capel Green. It captured something moving beneath the frost line. It wasn't natural. It wasn't alone. The underground structure. Back at Martlesham Heath, excavation had already begun. A buried structure was discovered 200 feet beneath Capel Green. Not ruins, not rock, machined alloy, precision carved, pre-atomic. Pike stood at the edge of the borehole. "This thing's older than the Cold War," he said. "Maybe older than war." Voss ran his hand over a hexagonal interface, still warm to the touch. "It's emitting a biosignal." Jack approached the edge, and the structure pulsed. A ring of light shimmered across the interface, matching his breathing. Then he heard it, a voice, inside his skull. "You're already inside." Mind space log. Christopher Pike. Entry redacted. Date December 26, 1980. We believe the structure below Capel Green is a form of temporal anchor, either left here or activated by the recent energy event. Its interaction with Barrett is unique. No other test subject, civilian or trained, has elicited a signal reaction. I fear we are not just dealing with consciousness bleed. We are dealing with a convergence vector. Barrett may be the fulcrum. Or the fuse. Back in the vault. Jack sat motionless. The red light above him flickered, then steadied. "Do you believe this was a test?" one of the interviewers asked. Jack didn't answer right away. He stared at the photograph still clutched in his hand, the one with his twin reflection watching from behind the mist. Then he looked up. "No," he said. It was a message. Post-debrief protocol. Before Jack could process what came next, Voss gave a subtle nod to the attending medical officer. A cold hush followed. "We can't risk destabilization," Voss said quietly. "He needs to forget, for now." Jack was administered a controlled neurochemical block designed to suspend recall of the debrief, the structure, and the signal. Not a permanent erasure, only a veil. "It's reversible," Pike confirmed, "but necessary. He'll remember when the signal wants him to." Within hours, Jack Barrett was returned to duty. No memory of the testimony, no knowledge of what was buried beneath Capel Green. But the signal was still inside him. And it was waiting. In Chapter 3, we learned that the phenomenon was never random. The Soviet satellite wasn't just targeted, it was bait. Jack Barrett wasn't a bystander. He was the signal's catalyst. Through psionic interaction, harmonic residue, and the emergence of a future self, Jack began to fracture, not just in memory, but in time. The structure beneath Capel Green responded to him, the plasma field stabilized around him, and the phenomenon, it spoke through him. Now, in Chapter 4, the signal splice, the ripple effect of that first night begins to reach forward. Jack wakes, confused and changed, still under the pull of the forest, but far away in 2025, inside a hidden congressional vault, new players step forward. Dr. Elias Voss takes the stand, and what he reveals will shake the foundation of national defense, time theory, and what we thought we knew about the Tic Tac incident. Prepare yourselves. The signal wasn't just received, it was replicated.
Through the silence of time, I walked alone, but the stars knew my name in undertone. From Rendlesham woods to Saturn skies, I carry the echo, I lived the why. It wasn't the end, it was unfolding. Not contact made, but truth beholding. Beyond the war, beyond the flame, we weren't just shadows, we became. We became the song inside the lattice, carved in light, born from the static. We became.
All right, gentlemen, Chapter 3. What did you think? After, we've seen it, just to see it again on the air here, to recollect the details of this. John, Commander, I'll go to you first. What was some of the thoughts on some of the takes on Chapter 3?
So, tying in what you started out your earlier remarks when we started the show, you touched upon a couple really key pieces, and that key piece is that John has put out between what you're seeing visually here, what you've heard in the past, what he's talked about. He's marking out the journey, and he's also marking out the tasking, the mission that he's on. And again, I am absolutely awestruck that you guys would even call me in to be part of this. I've enjoyed a very, very special friendship with both of you. And John, you've been nothing but a great friend on this. And I am understanding more now on this, because I think you are able to now put it into intelligent understanding that, someone that's got a fairly smooth brain like myself can understand it and share in it. And then I am relating it to other things. And one of those things that came to me after this show when I watched it and getting ready for this was the event that I talk about that I haven't been sure about, and now I'm starting to get better understanding of what had happened in that. Nothing in the scale or the league of what you experienced and what you've gone through for basically 4 decades.
John, any response to Commander about that?
Well, okay, the first 3 parts show exactly how a real hearing would take place. And what I mean by that is if they're serious, I don't agree with it, but it would have to go behind closed doors. And there's just a look at what would take place if it went behind closed doors with the scientists that would get called in, the people that would talk about what really happened, and opening up because people that were involved in incidents, I think Commander knows what I'm saying.
Sure.
Just because I'm involved in an incident doesn't mean I have permission, even under the Whistleblower Act, to talk about it. It has to be done a certain way. You have to get subpoenaed. You have to get the people that ran the programs permission to talk about it if you're following properly under exposure. You can go to people in Congress and stuff and say, I have an issue, but you can't do like what Snowden did. You can't make it publicly when it involves classified. Even though that may be the way you have to do it to get people to listen, you can't technically, you have to bring it to the appropriate people, including Inspector General's office and stuff. And then it would go behind closed doors. And then technically the way it's supposed to work is Congress would then do hearings on it, and then that would evolve from there. And one of the interesting things that I'm still currently going on with, Commander, you're going to find, you know what the Office of Net Assessment is, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it just got disbanded, right?
Correct.
Right. Well, I've got FOIA in with them right now. And I've got FOIA in with Department of Energy, MOD, and a couple other agencies. And I am playing cat and mouse with them on what they're going to give me and what they're not, and how they're trying to cover it. So what went on at Rendlesham and what's really going on, not the dog and pony show with the hearings that they're doing right now and stuff, that's the way it would be handled. It wouldn't be the spectacle of Lou going up there and going, blah, 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 but I have to go behind closed doors. No, the real good stuff is going to be never made public. It's going to go behind closed doors from the beginning.
Quickly, I just want to ask Commander, with his extensive military background, Commander, is it not logical and does it not make sense that it would be possible for us to be doing testing on military sites similar to see what our adversaries could use to try to dismantle, like to shut things down? Wouldn't it make sense at times for our military to be doing testing drills similar to what happened with the Tic Tac 2004? We now know that was a Lockheed Martin device of some kind, a drone. But doesn't it make sense that this could be what happened possibly to John and the others at Rendlesham?
Well, you know that I said that from the start, that I thought that's what Rendlesham was, just because of how the time period that occurred, the area, the interaction. John's experience and what he's related has made me understand this more, and it's also made me understand. You're absolutely correct, Bill. This is how these things work, and when you have the bread and circus routine that we have seen on this subject, that is just to supply the masses with some kind of immediate fix. And I would love that we could talk more about where we are, where we're swiping in our phones, and we only have about maybe 5 minutes worth of attention, and we look at how many minutes it's telling us it's going to take us to read a story. So that's being used against us. And this is how you do this kind of breakdown. And if you're in the race to be ahead of this, and again, I'm going back to John's latest book. If you're in the race on this, then you have to be doing these things faster than your opponent is. And whatever that is, if it's reverse engineering, if it's a breakthrough that's come in, and all you have to go to historically is look what happened during the Manhattan Project. It's probably the best dive to look when you're analyzing how huge war going on, everything that's being mobilized, but a breakaway technology was being developed in that conflict. Everything that we had in this country was being generated towards a war effort to fight conventionally. And I think this is what John has really brought to bear. We are in that same place now, and the breakaway technologies are things that we are not expecting or understanding to be the same. We think we're talking about a faster jet. We think we're talking about, and I'm sure that those technologies are being pursued, There's a lot of reasons that I think you still do that from an economic standpoint, if nothing else. But the breakout is here and it's happening, and the kinds of public demonstrations are just silly.
So I totally agree. Go ahead, John.
Well, here's the thing, and I think you know where I'm going with this, Commander. The phenomenon, John Alexander called it the trickster, right?
Right.
And I always wondered why he did that. Now I understand. This is all being used in countermeasures, plus the ability to cut through space and time. And what happened to us was part of what we were doing, but also there is a real phenomenon there.
Absolutely.
And they're aware of it not only in Rendlesham but in other areas of the world. And they've devoted a lot of time and study and effort to understand how it can be utilized as a weapon. And
John, let me ask you this question real quick.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a good metaphor when you see someone with a Tesla or an electric vehicle that has a generator in the back trunk of their car, so that when they run out of gas, they have to have someone come out with gasoline so they can charge up their battery and go? I think we're at that stage in much of this technology that we have advances that we don't fully control, we don't fully understand, and they're looking how they can hybrid it onto existing technologies, to existing capabilities.
Well, the other issue is computing power. They've figured out the energy source now and how to cut through space and time, which they've openly admitted about a month ago, when the guy from the science office came out and said we have the ability to manipulate space and time.
Right.
But they have the problem with computing problems, but that's the quantum that's come online now.
Right.
And I'm sure AI will have a big part of that as well.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the progression. But everybody thinks AI just showed up. In the civilian world, it did, but the military's been utilizing it a lot longer. So.
Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, we're done. So everyone, make sure to tune in every week, Thursdays, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Eastern, on all the KGRA DB platforms, whether it's video or audio. And also on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, we do a special review and preview of chapters. And from time to time, we will be honored to have Commander Cobra join us for the next few months. So I hope everybody enjoyed tonight, chapter 3, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. So till then, everybody have a great night, and we'll see you next week.